Hello and welcome everyone to the main event, our first in 2023. I'm Meeta and I'm really pleased to be joined by our guest today, Biraj Nakarja. Hi Biraj, how are you doing?
Hi Meeta, I'm really well, thank you. So excited to be here and thank you for having me today.
Really good to have you on board. So what a topic to kick off with, transformational coaching, and we've got the expert in the room to walk us through it. So Biraj, before we go into the nitty gritty, we've got a packed half an hour, 40 minutes, and I've got a bit of housekeeping to do. But before I go into that, tell me why this is what you have dedicated your career to. Why is transformational coaching, and you've actually turned it on its head, haven't you, the way you look at coaching people? Tell me about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So look, my background is in high transactional e-commerce organizations, specifically in the tech space. That's what I've been doing for the last sort of 15 to 16 years, or gosh, maybe even more even. But throughout that time, it's all around leading, developing, building teams, and coaching and mentoring teams. And for me, it was a real passion of mine and something that I always received good feedback on and something that gave me energy and motivation. And so 2 years ago, I decided to leave the corporate world to pursue some personal projects and ambitions, one of which was to start my own coaching business and help others to really sort of maximize their potential through their talents and strengths. And that's where I like to kind of sort of hone in terms of my niche. Everything that I do from a transformational coaching perspective is all underpinned by talent and strength.
Amazing. Well, that aligns with the main world so perfectly, because with us as a talent consultancy, we are on that journey with our clients, from the hiring through to the retention and development and right through to succession planning, like what's next for these people. And what I love about the way you look at this is that, so much about performance management and personal development is like, ticking, like appraisal processes, boxes, score yourself out of 5. And in a way, we almost look at the things that score well and kind of overlook them and say, right, let's focus on the things that are 1s and 2s, and then grow those. But you've got the sort of alternative approach, haven't you? Tell us about strength-based thinking for coaching.
100%. And I think we actually live in a world where we're all so fixated on the things that we can't do or the things that we don't have. And not enough do we actually really embrace the things that we are great at and the things that we can do to build upon those. And actually, I think we're misguided throughout life. If you think about kind of back in kind of school days, and usually a typical parents' evening would go something along the lines of, oh, Meeta, I think you need to work a little bit more on your maths, and we should give you some extra maths work and extra maths lessons. And your parents might be, oh, Meeta, we're going to get you some extra maths tuition outside of school. But not often do you hear, Meeta, you're brilliant at English. We're going to give you extra English lessons and extra English work. And your parents are like, I'm going to get you extra English tuition so you become the best at English.
Yeah.
And this finds its way into the working world as well, as you say, when it comes to performance reviews. Typically, that kind of conventional model of a performance review is centered around maintain the things that you're good at, but let's talk about the things that you're not so good at, and let's build a development plan that helps to plug those gaps.
Yeah.
But a strength-based mentality and kind of strength-based approach to performance development is actually, as you say, the other way around. It's more around, let's maintain and just manage the things that you're not so good at, and you spend less time talking about that. But let's think of a development plan that builds upon the things that you are already great at, and let's make them even stronger. Let's turn them into your superpowers so that you get known for those particular things. So it's a very different way of looking at things.
I love it, because it's all about positive praise. It's all about recognizing what people are good at. We're all going to have things that we're not good at. And look, I'm going to quickly do the housekeeping, because you can see I'm already right in this. So
of course,
everyone that's joining and settling in, welcome. For those of you that have been here before, I'm sorry, I'm going to say it again, but this is an interactive session. So Biraj and I are going to be talking. We have a lot to cover. We're here for about 30 to 45 minutes. Usually we always go to about the 45, but we try and keep it succinct because we know everyone's time is precious. But we promise that you are going to have takeaways just from hearing from Biraj and I talk today. But alongside that, we've got a chat box which you can put your comments in. I'm literally doing a quick hello there. You can see how easy it is to put your thoughts, comments, questions, because if you have something specific that you want to take away from today, we promise within the time we'll answer it. What I will also say is that if you have questions that you don't want to put on the group or something that you want to think about in a sort of broader space, Biraj and I are both available outside of this session. We are going to send you the recording of today. So if you're jumping in a little bit later, don't worry, you'll get the recording of today and our contact details as well. So I guess you can just sit back, engage, and give us your thoughts and give us any questions. We've actually got a poll. My last bit of housekeeping. I've got a poll which I wanted to put out to our audience today, Biraj. We do this every week, and it helps us to understand what their thinking is. So interestingly, we've already got some responses. The question for everyone today is, what is your priority for you and your team right now? So we have 5 options because there's so many different elements that go into team building. So first of all, understanding your people better, upskilling and training your people, team culture and alignment, increasing the size of your team, or productivity and engagement. Currently, upskilling and training are 50% of the votes. Yeah. Understanding your people better is coming in at a third. And then the third at the moment is productivity and engagement. It's moving quick, so I can see people have started to see that. Thank you, everyone, for putting your thoughts into that. We'll come back to this. We'll have a look at where that's going. But, Biraj, when you look at some of the statistics that go into employee engagement and satisfaction, one of these blew my mind. So apparently, a company with a more engaged team would increase revenue by 400%. I mean, that's crazy. I couldn't believe that. And this is a great one, again, for us where we work with clients and help them retain their people. Engaged employees are 87% likely to resign, again, which is really good. And it all comes back to the fact that if people are engaged, or if they're recognized for their performances, they become more engaged. And my last one, which is the kind of, I guess, the cherry on the cake, is that 60% of employees say they would prefer regular praise over a 10% pay increase with no recognition. So that's crazy. I mean,
they're mind-blowing stats, right? And I think one thing that a word that you've used on a number of occasions there is engage, right? And that's really, really important. How do we engage our people? How do we engage our teams? How do we engage ourselves to be the best that we can? And ultimately, engagement comes from motivation, drive, enthusiasm, joy in what you're doing. And if you're getting your
at it, right? Like feeling like you're doing well.
100%. And so if you're getting your people doing the things that don't motivate them, that don't enthuse them, that don't drive them, that don't engage them on a day-to-day basis, then it's only a matter of time before they become disengaged. And the worst thing that you can have in your team is a disengaged person that stays, right? Most disengaged people do one of two things. They're either going to go and find something else, or they're just going to kind of sit there and just carry on doing what they're doing. If a disengaged person leaves, then that's great for them, it's great for you. But the worst thing is having that disengaged person stay within your team. So how do we drive engagement? And ultimately, engagement is driven through understanding your people better. And I love it because we have 37%, I'm looking at the poll at the moment, that want to understand their people better. That's linked directly to then when you understand them, you know how to develop them. You develop them by upskilling and training in the areas that they are most talented in. And that then directly links to what we have third here, which is productivity and engagement, like we've been saying. I'm certified by a company called Gallup. And Gallup's research shows that those who use their talents on a daily basis are 3 times more likely to report having an excellent quality of life and 6 times more likely to be engaged in their job. Like, 3 times more likely to have an excellent quality of life and 6 times more engaged in their jobs. I mean, any manager would take that hands down, right?
If that was a pill that someone could take and create results, we'd be all over.
Of course. Yeah, absolutely. And actually, it comes as simply as, do you know your people really, really well? Have you taken the time to understand where their value and what superpowers they bring to the table? And I'm not referring to skill here. I'm referring to much more deeper rooted talent, because skills are things that we can all learn over time. But talent is something that is natural. It's our natural recurring pattern of thoughts, feeling, and behavior. And therefore, do you really understand those natural ways in which your people think, feel, and behave? Because only then can we then start to talk about upskilling, training, and engagement.
Yeah. So we're going to look at 3 areas of this today. So we're going to start by looking at I love your acronym, the DNA of people.
Yes.
And you do that for teams, you do that for individuals, you do that for execs, because this is something that should be permeated through every layer of an organization.
100%. 100%.
Understanding and the sort of it's like a lifting of a veil, actually.
Yeah.
You see people for who they are, and if someone's outside of that, then it doesn't flow. So we're going to be looking at DNA, and then we're going to look at, it's one thing knowing the people you have and engaging with and getting the best out of, but then what happens when you start looking for the next person to bring into the team? So we're going to look at how we consider talent DNA when hiring, and how to uncover these superpowers from our existing team, which will then allow us to define, not just, as you said, the skills of the people, but what I call the person specification. Who are they as an individual? What's important to them? What are their competencies? What do they bring to the table to enable them to then deliver their skills, right? Because
100%.
having their skills in a box, but how they communicate, how they engage, how they respond to challenge, and all of the things. I mean, you're more of an expert in that. And it's a perfect time because it's the beginning of the year. I think everyone's back from Christmas. We've kind of overcome the craziness of the holidays, and I think we're all looking ahead now. And in a world where there's so much uncertainty, and I think the only constant in our world now is uncertainty and change, right?
Yes.
And as a workforce, as a set of people managers or people leaders, business leaders, the constant we can bring is our shared drivers, our shared goals and visions, and then that commitment to each other that we're on this journey together. So I think what the gift that you bring to organizations in the session we're going to have today is, I guess, the blueprint of how we get there.
Yeah, 100%. And I refer to it as the DNA because that's what runs through us. That's what runs through teams. And for everyone that's listening, the DNA kind of analogy, so to speak, kind of came. So I called my business Innate Compass, and I really thought hard about why it should be called Innate Compass. And it was driven purely by 2 things. Firstly, we all have innate talent within us. Mm-hmm. And once we can discover what they are, that can become our compass to be able to guide us to whatever it is that we want to do. But that innateness and DNA, what I felt was a real kind of synergy there. And I break the DNA up into 3. The first being the discovery of your natural talents. Because I ask every client of mine, what is your greatest talent? And I either get a blank stare because they just simply can't answer that question, or they answer it with actually a skill as opposed to a talent. So for example, I often hear, oh, I'm really talented in playing this sport, or I'm really talented in playing the piano, I'm really talented in this particular software. Actually, those are things that we are not innately we don't innately know how to do. We have to learn how to do that over time. So I'm a big football fan, so I use a lot of football analogies. But if someone says, oh, they're really talented in playing football, you learn how to play football over time. Yeah. But when you talk about the talent in football, actually, maybe it's more your ability to be able to see a pass 2 or 3 seconds before somebody else does. Maybe it's your ability to be able to adjust your formation because you see that the opposition has changed theirs. Maybe it's your ability to command your team and communicate with your team to get them doing the right things on the pitch and off the pitch. That's what we refer to as talent, not the playing of the football. The playing of the football, it almost comes afterwards.
Well,
but
that's the result of the talent.
Exactly that, right? And that talent is not just applicable when you're playing football. If you are a natural communicator on the pitch, you're probably a natural communicator off the pitch as well. And so I did this fantastic workshop with Queen's Park Rangers under-18s Football Academy. And it was really interesting because the whole group of people that were on the session, unfortunately, the reality of football is probably 99% of the people that are on that call are not going to make it professionally. Yet all they know from a very young age is playing football. And so we had this session where we talked about their natural talents and we didn't discuss football at all. And what was really interesting was it started getting them thinking about what they could be doing outside of football, but also how they could bring that into football as well. And ultimately, this whole process is about the person. If you can understand yourself better, then you're able to use that to understand your people better. And if you can understand your people better and your team better, then all of a sudden that directly leads to greater productivity and ultimately greater profitability for businesses and organizations as well. So there's a real thread that goes through all of this, but it all starts from you. Do you understand and can you discover what your natural talents are?
Well, it's interesting you said that because I remember we were talking in the kind of, warm up and we were talking about, I said, people see me and things in me that I would never recognize or have noticed in myself. And I think for business managers, people leaders watching and thinking, how do I create an environment where each of my individual members of the team can start playing to their strengths? It's about, you mentioned it, about feedback. So what the starting point is actually taking that time to, I think us as Brits, we find it very hard to sort of blow our own trumpet and say, I'm
100%.
So I think our culture is very much, oh, no, that's not me. But in a managerial position, for somebody looking at the beginning of 23 and noticing, for example, some juniors, like they have no, apart from maybe their degree or their school education, they have no real experience, but you notice them engaging well with people. You notice how eager they are to stand up and do things. And you think to yourself, I know they've got something, but how do I translate that then to turning that into the being good in their job? So what would you say a manager should what sort of conversation should they start? The discovery, if you like. Oh, are you back, Biraj? We lost you for a minute there. Are you back?
Say perceptions. I'm here. Can you hear me?
Oh, you went a little
for
a while, but you're back. Can
you hear me there?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Sorry about that. So look, they say perception is everything, right? And you're absolutely right. When we ask ourselves that question, what is your greatest talent? It can be very difficult sometimes to answer that. But if you ask others, what do you believe my greatest talents are? I'm sure if you asked 5, 6, 7 people that were close to you to share what they believe is your greatest talent, you will start to see a theme and you'll start to see a pattern. So when it comes to understanding your team, 360 feedback is something that I think is really valuable, right? Asking people that are in your team, that are external to your team, that are more senior to you, that are more junior to you, to give you feedback, and not feedback on your skills specifically, but your feedback on you. Oh, I see that you're really engaging when we're in a team meeting. I see that you handle change really well. I see that you're really disciplined and focused and very methodical in how you do things. These are ways in which we can start to uncover and discover what people's natural talents are. So I would say to people managers, think a little bit outside of the skills of what your team members are doing and start to think a little bit more about the behaviors. What's the natural way in which they think and the natural way in which they behave? You mentioned how we live in this uncertain world. Some people thrive in that type of environment. Some people find that difficult because they are more methodical and more disciplined in how they do things. And you know what? There's a place for both of those types of people. You just need to understand what that is. When I help people to think about or give them clues or tips on how they can discover their natural talents, there's a couple of things you can think about there. First of all, we call it yearning. What is that thing that comes naturally to that person? So can you see that this person naturally is great with people? Can you see that this person is naturally analytical or strategic in the way that they operate? Yeah. What are the things that come naturally to them? The other one then is we call rapid learning. What are the things that your team seem to pick up really quickly? Like, oh my God, he's never done that before, but my gosh, he just took to that so quickly, like duck to water. Are there things that you're seeing your people really quickly being able to absorb? You're going to say something.
Yeah, I just thought about an environment where I see this, and it's on The Apprentice. So they've got these teams working, and then they've got Claude and Karen almost out there with a little notebook writing. Yeah. What came to me as you were speaking was actually, it's time for managers to be more observant, to sit
observant, yes,
and actually just make little notes. Like if you know, absolutely the 360, it's so powerful, and I think something like this needs to be introduced as a way of working as a team, you know, the way of the organisation, our culture, rather than right from today, we're going to look at this. That won't work. It's explaining where it comes from. And what I would say is that if you are planning on putting this into your world, which I will say is so powerful, I actually said to Biraj, I would love to bring you into our world and do this with our team. We'll feedback on the impact.
Of course.
What I would say is that saying, you know, we're going to do 360 feedback to see what your strengths are, I think people will actually really warm to it. And I think it will really lend back into culture as well, because, you know, for me, culture is the boat that takes us to success, right? You know, you can have every strategy. 100%. Culture is the boat. And when people recognize their you know, discover their talents and their strengths, and then are actually able to champion that and to be recognized, to be known for it, I think that will create just an energy that gives them the confidence. And I think when you are confident in yourself, in your strengths, you're confident in accepting that there are challenging areas, and it will actually make you want to deal with those challenging areas more. I think it's
or actually just accept that they're challenging areas for you and not worry about it, right? So one thing actually, as you were saying that, that came to mind. So I have 2 young boys, and often I hear this a lot with parents, but also within the working world, I've come across this a number of times as well, where we want our children or we want our people to be well-rounded people, right? I don't know if you've come across this. I know you're a parent yourself, and whether you've ever used the term or thought of the term how you want your children to be well-rounded. I was doing a talk recently, and I asked everyone in the audience to raise their hands if they were a parent, and most people put their hands up. I said, okay, right, how many of you want your children to be well-rounded children? And they all kept their hand up. Now the same could be applicable to asking a manager about their team as well. How many of you want your team to be well-rounded individuals? Now, I said, right, okay, put your hands down. I'm going to ask you this again. Put your hand up if you're a parent. So the same people put their hands up. I said, right, how many of you want your children to be average at lots of things? And they all put their hands down.
Yeah.
And I was like, right, I've actually asked you the same question, but in a slightly different way, because one could argue that being well-rounded is being average at lots of things.
Wow.
And actually, do we want to be average at lots of things, or do we want to be known for, as you said, the things that we bring the greatest value in? And that roundedness, I use the analogy of a fist. Right? A fist is a rounded shape.
Yeah.
And what we're saying is we don't want to be rounded. Instead, we want to be this. We want to be known for these 4 or 5 strengths of ours, these talents that are our superpowers. But also, you see in this shape here, we also have gaps. Mm-hmm. We also want to be completely okay with our gaps. Mm-hmm. Because if we, as you say, are confident about what we do have, but also comfortable with what we don't have, only then can we then start to learn how to partner and collaborate with people that have the things that we don't. And when we talk about teams, That's how we strengthen our team dynamics,
Yeah.
because we are all very comfortable with what we bring to the table, but we are also very, very aware of what other people bring to the table as well, and how you and I can partner together on this particular project, or myself and another person can partner on this project because we both bring our superpowers to the table, and we're both working in that flow state and in our strength zone, because we're doing the things that come naturally to us and the things that we are great at. So don't build a team of all-rounders, essentially, is what I'm saying. Really understand the uniqueness and superpower that every individual in your team brings, and learn how to get them partnering and collaborating with each other, so that you have a real strong team overall, where you've got people that have got different talents that all come together at the right times.
Just wow. And it's simple, isn't it? I think that's the thing about great ideas or great approaches, is that they're really simple. And what this is about is language. And it's the language that we use in our one-to-ones, in our appraisal processes, in our feedback processes, and shifting it. So it doesn't have to be a rewrite of everything. Actually, it's going from, this is what I noticed you missed out, and actually saying, you know what, this is what I noticed you're always doing really well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I think, you use the 80-20 rule. Most performance reviews, 80% of your time is working on your areas of development. Now, an area of development is just another way of talking about your weakness. Actually, spend 20% of your time talking about the things that you might need to work on, but spend the majority of your time looking at what fantastic things you've done and how can I support you to continue and build upon those things that you're already doing really well. Because I want you to be the best presenter in my team. And I already see that you're great at presenting. So let's talk about how I can get you presenting more. And let's talk about what training I can give you so you become a better presenter. And let's talk about how I can integrate you with other people that are doing great presenting, so you guys can learn from each other and you guys can, bounce off each other. Those are the conversations you want to be having with your team, specifically because data shows you are more engaged when you're working in that zone. And we know, just from what we've discussed today, the more engaged you are, the more productive you are. The more productive you are, the more successful you are as a team as well.
Yeah, and then people retain in their roles and they're happier.
Exactly that.
Bottom line wins as well.
And it then has a positive.
Oh, I think we've lost Biraj for a minute again. Sorry about the connectivity today, guys. Can I blame
outside, please?
Biraj, we lost you for a minute there. I'm so sorry. I was filling the time by blaming the weather.
That's okay.
Please.
I'm not sure what's happening. I can still hear you, so I'm not sure what's going on there. Apologies if it's my end. I was just saying we should be having more of those conversations, because also when you have a happy, engaged person at work, that also has a positive impact on their engagement and happiness outside of work as well. And if they're happy outside of work, they're going to be more productive inside of work, and vice versa. So it's really important that we start to look at our people for who they are, and really utilize who they are for the benefit of both themselves, yourselves, and the team.
Yeah. And I would reflect on two things in this. One, I would say that if you've watched this and thought, I want to bring this into my world, share this recording with all of your peers. The other thing I would say is reach out to Biraj outside of this, and of course myself. We're all working towards this greater good.
Of course.
Biraj is our expert in this. So
yeah. So that I can definitely help, certainly on that discovery element, as we've been talking about. But once you've discovered it, you have to do something with it, right? So this leads us onto the N, which is the nurturing. Or another word that could be used is investing. So the equation that we use in the Gallup world is talent multiplied by investment equals strength.
Okay.
So once you've discovered what your talent is, unless you then invest in that talent, only then does it become a strength of yours. And this is what we refer to by nurturing. So once we've discovered that we've got great communicators in the team, we've got great strategic thinkers, we've got great people that have empathy, we now have to allow them to nurture that particular talent of theirs so that it becomes a strength. So what do we mean by nurture or invest? Well, get them spending more time doing that thing.
Yeah.
Help them to acquire additional knowledge in that particular area.
Yeah.
Help them to gain new skills in that particular area as well.
And I would also add is take away the things that, you know, are getting in the way, because people need time.
Exactly that.
To do those things.
Exactly that. So it's about nurturing an environment that plays and allows them to build upon their talents, and so that it becomes a strength of theirs.
Yeah.
So only once you've discovered it and you've nurtured it, it becomes a strength.
Yeah.
But then once you've got that strength, you have to then move on to the A, which is the application. Okay. You then have to allow that person to apply that strength to everything that they do. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I love to discuss with my clients is intentional application. So when you have really connected with what your superpowers are, if you go into every opportunity, every challenge, every project, every program, every initiative, very intentional about what talents you have, what strengths you have, I promise you, you look at everything in such a very open way, a positive way. You're already going in one step ahead because you're going in knowing these are the things that I can bring to the table.
And everyone is allowed to be their authentic self, which I think is a word that is used so much now. But what it actually means is that you don't need to bring a work face. You don't need to put all this energy into presenting yourself as somebody that knows it all and has got it all. Actually, you're known for what you're good at, and you can really do that in an authentic and natural way. And again, the energy that goes into that is all going to result in success at the other end. You know, the throughput.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that, what are you known for, is really important. And again, that question of what is your talent, and people often give me kind of the skill. Same thing. What are you known for? And that doesn't mean, oh, I'm known for being the best marketing person or for the best marketing team. What are you known for? I'm known for being the empathetic marketeer. Yeah. I'm known for being the strategic thinking marketing team. Yeah. I'm known for being having a competitive edge in everything that I do. I'm known for being that person that can really understand my clients and put myself in their shoes. Yeah. This is taking away from their actual activity and task of what they do on a day-to-day basis, and it's bringing it to a much more personal and deeper level, which is, as you say, what are you known for? Yeah. What type of person are you known for? What type of team are you known for being?
It's the customer experience, isn't it?
Exactly that.
Customers are both internal teammates as well as those external clients and everyone that people engage with.
100%. And when you can start to understand your internal customers, i.e. your team members at that deeper level, that's where the magic happens. Because as I say, you then know where your pockets of excellence are. You also, as a team, also start to understand where some of your gaps are as a team, and what you then need to do to manage and navigate those gaps.
Indeed. And that brings me neatly onto perhaps we need to navigate those gaps by hiring people in. So if we're looking at, the recruitment space, and a lot of the work we do is helping clients build that job description. Sometimes the clients will give us the job description of the person that was working in the role before they moved forward or out of the business. And it's a case of, well, no, because actually we need to build the whole organizational picture. And then the missing puzzle piece, if you like, is the job description. And that's forever changing because the whole thing is ever changing. So we try not to work on preconceptions of what the role is. When you're talking about, strengths and what people are known for, how can we bring that into the job description? How can that be continued in that sort of talent journey in the organization?
Yeah, definitely. So in my experience, I think sometimes job descriptions can be so skills based and not enough around the additional things that you're looking for. So yes, of course, there's a set of skills that you need to be able to fill that particular gap. But it comes back to, again, understanding your team and understanding what you're known for. If you can understand the DNA of your team, and you know that this team are serving in this particular way or are offering this type of experience, then thread that into your job description as well. So yes, there's the skills, you know, they need to know this software, they need to know, you know, have this particular educational background and so on and so forth. But I'm looking for someone that is a strategic thinker. I'm looking for someone that can navigate change on a constant basis. I'm looking for someone that is empathetic to their internal but external stakeholders. I'm looking for someone that has influencing talents that allows them to be able to drive decision making. You know, these are
unique, isn't it? It's so unique to everyone. And I think what's really important as well is what you've said about understanding your talents is by asking outside of yourself, what am I known for? I think similarly with job descriptions, sometimes that goes to the manager or HR and they have this idea of, you know, what they need. But when it goes out to the floor or members in the team meet that individual, there's a disconnect. So actually, what I think is really important for employers when they are hiring, especially if they want to get the DNA right, is ask your people, what are we looking for? What are we looking for in the next person that's coming into this role?
100%, 100%, definitely, because ultimately they're going to be working with them on a day-to-day basis. And, you know, you might have a particular talent theme that you're looking for that you don't have, or you might actually have a talent theme that you want to strengthen even further. And again, a singular person may not be able to fully understand and appreciate what's required, but this comes back to the involvement of the team. Collaboration and partnership. And so that's a really great suggestion. You know, when it comes to hiring, don't be singular in your hiring, involve your team in that. Do you have you know, multiple interview stages that involve all members of your team, maybe senior, peers, and even junior?
And this is something that we, especially in this world of everything being remote, we're pushing to get out there and get into our client space and meet with them, meet with their teams, walk through their offices and absorb the energy, because you pick up so much just by being in a room, right? Like they say, you can cut this room with a knife. That, you know, it's cold. Like you just pick up so much from people. And so I think for managers, especially where you're managing remotely, don't forget the power of having everyone in one space. Whether you do that twice a week, whether you do team building or you take them out, whatever you do, make sure you get that face time together, because it's so powerful.
Yeah, definitely. And so one of my top talents is called Woo. It stands for winning others over. And basically, I love the term of it actually. And it's not like, oh, you're a good wooer and you like to schmooze people. It's about how do you win others over, and you win others over through breaking the ice, making connections, having good conversation, being able to engage a group of people that you have maybe never met before. It's very hard for someone like that to be working from home on a day-to-day basis. Some people have those natural talents where they need to be in and around people. That's what gets the best out of them. That's what drives them. That's what motivates them. And so again, it's important to understand, do you have people like that in your team? Because if you do, yet you're not making the effort to bring those people together so that they have those connections, then ultimately you're not playing to that person's talent, and it will start to disengage them over a period of time if they're not interacting and liaising with others on a regular basis.
What I really like about this as well is that it's okay to be different. In fact, we demand it. And when
our differences are our advantage.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes when we're interviewing, I know for us, we have a section on the skills requirement. We recommend everyone has the people specification, but also competencies. And actually, you know, what those abilities demonstrate, how they can turn into superpowers. And, you know, sometimes there's this expectation, especially when we, again, recommend 3 stages, that, you know, they need to tick every box. But if you understand what's missing, you can actually establish that actually we don't need those. We've got plenty of that in our team at the moment.
Exactly.
And when we're interviewing someone and saying that we want you to have this and this, but listen, some people don't have that. They don't all have to be clones of each other, is what I'm saying. And that then allows people to celebrate differences and yet still be part of one team, one organization, one vision, one goal?
100%. And I think that common goal is really, really important. When we refer to leadership in the strength world, a leader's job, a leader's role is to define that common purpose, that common goal, and then to be able to use the strengths of their team to achieve that particular purpose and goal.
So sorry, go on, please.
Yeah, so the creation of that goal is something that, again, you should involve your people in. And then it's about utilizing what everyone brings to the table. And as we said, partner and collaborate with each other and, look to fill the gaps maybe that you don't have through your hiring. Or sometimes actually we're not in a fortunate position to be able to just go and hire people. We have to learn how to manage them. And there's strategies to be able to do that, right? Yeah. Can you use the strengths that you have in your team to manage the weaknesses that you have in your team? Yeah. Can you collaborate with each other or with functions outside of the business, or even third parties and tools and what have you, to be able to help manage and navigate the things that you don't have? Yeah. Sometimes we just have to do those things, but is the balance more of doing what we're not so good at and less of what we are, or the other way around? Because if the balance is wrong, if the balance is wrong, then we have to basically tip that so that you're doing more of what your team are great at and less of the things that they're not.
Yeah, no, I hear you. We have a question from the floor from Yvonne. So Yvonne asks a really important question, which is, how does this all fit with equal opportunities whilst interviewing? Because we have protected characteristics, we don't have positive discrimination in hiring and quotas, but we do want to have an equanimity within our working world. How do we bring that in?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think there's nothing changes when it comes to equality and how we're interviewing in this framework or mindset. It comes down to also what you're looking for in terms of that particular role. So there's skills. For example, if you're looking for someone that is highly analytical and the role and the job description is around being highly analytical, then you're not going to hire someone that's not analytical, right? But it's about understanding the type of person or the type of gap that you're trying to fill. Yeah. And then within the equality framework, of course, right, we don't want to be discriminative in terms of the type of people that we are speaking to, but it's about the type of individuals that you are looking for and the talents that they bring to the table. So for me, actually, the two are quite separate.
They are, but also actually, I think this whole process lends to an organization the ability to be more diverse, because if you actually recognize that we don't need every competency fulfilled by this individual, these are the 3 competencies out of 5 that we need. Look at neurodiversity as an example. My daughter has dyslexia, and when she sees things, I'm blown away. I'm like, I never saw it that way. And actually, I think it encourages employers to look broader at actually what strengths are out there and who could bring those strengths to our world, and not be afraid of really diverse work. Because that's the other thing. We do a lot of work around diversity. We train on diversity. We encourage it into our strategic hiring, but also how businesses conduct themselves every day. And, along with an engaged team giving more productivity, diverse workforces are the most successful and productive, and therefore bottom lines are winning all out. So
actually, I mean, you make a really, really good point there, and it's just reminded me. So one of the businesses that I have is a children's coding club. So we teach children from the ages of 5 through to 14 how to code computer games. Okay. And actually, it's our most successful students are students that have autism or Asperger's. Yeah. And just that way of thinking, that problem solving and critical analysis, it lends itself so well. Yet I know so many people that have autism that struggle to find jobs. And actually, if you think about it, there is a real power in what they bring in terms of how they think and how they feel and how they behave to certain roles out there. So you're absolutely right. Actually, their differences are their advantage, as again. And actually, when we're interviewing, if we can understand what is unique about this person, and therefore that uniqueness, how can we bring that uniqueness into our team? Because if we don't have it in our team already and that person brings it, that's actually added a string to our bow.
And I think defining the DNA of your people, understanding their strengths and bringing that into interviewing and how you hire actually widens the pool of potential people that
Definitely.
will have and retain in your world. So
definitely.
Listen, Biraj, I could talk to you about this all day, and thank you to our audience for your contribution to the chat room and also the polls. I will very quickly sum up the polls. So the priority number one for everyone out there for themselves and their teams is upskilling and training. Next is understanding your people better. And in joint third is team culture and alignment and productivity and engagement. So Biraj and I hope that you've been able to get some insight and glean some, tools that you can take back to your working worlds immediately. But also, as I said before, we'll get this recording out to you, and Biraj and I are both available outside of this. You'll get all of our contact details. Biraj, last thought from you. What do you think, people who've attended today, what's the first thing that you think that they should do when they leave this room and go back to their desks to really harness what they've taken from today?
I would say, if I was to sum it up in sort of one term or one quote, is when we fix our weaknesses, we can prevent failure. But when we build upon our strengths, that's what leads to success.
Yeah.
So as you listen to this, as you go back to your desks and back to your teams, think about, are you building upon your strengths?
Yeah, and
because that will lead to success, and your people's strengths, absolutely. Or are you still fixated on fixing those weaknesses or those gaps, so to speak, and spending so much time doing that you're not really even thinking about your superpowers and the superpowers of your team?
Yeah, very powerful. Biraj, thank you so much. It's been fantastic. We're back next week, and Biraj, I hope to have you back on, because this is just the beginning, I feel, of this journey.
No, thank you so much for having me. I hope it was useful. It's a different way of kind of thinking and a different perspective. Yeah. And as Meeta has said, if there's anyone out there that would like to get help discovering their particular talents, then Meeta and I would be more than happy to help. So please do reach out. Reach out.
We're always on LinkedIn as well, so to join.
Absolutely.
Okay. Bye all for now. See you soon.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.